Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some pretzel sandwich buns. So these are going to be buns with the exterior like a pretzel, which is nice and chewy, but the inside will be like a bread roll basically. And as with most bread recipes, they do take a bit of time because you have to proof the dough before you can actually shape them and go on to the next steps. And again, with these pretzel buns, having proofed and shaped the dough, they then have to be dipped in some boiling water that has some salt and some baking soda in it, and cooked in that water for about a minute, and then taken out before being baked in the oven. So I go on to the ingredients. And I start off with the bread flour, and I have 540 grams, which is 3 2/3 cups minus 1 tablespoon of bread flour. That's based on my measuring at 150 grams per cup. I have 397 millilitres and grams, in fact, of lukewarm water, and I have mine at about 42 degrees Celsius, which is about 105 to 110 Fahrenheit, something like that. I have 28 grams, 2 tablespoons of butter at room temperature. I have 8 grams, 1 packet of instant yeast, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and 28 grams, 1/4 of a cup of powdered milk. And then for the boiling water mixture, I have 1/4 of a cup, 57 grams of baking soda, and 2 teaspoons of salt. So we'll go on and we'll make the dough. And I'm going to start by putting the water into the bowl, and I'm going to put my yeast in as well at this stage, and the butter. And then I'm going to sprinkle over the powdered milk, and the flour, and then I'm going to put the salt on the top, and I'm going to mix that on a low speed and knead it until it all comes together into a smooth but slightly sticky dough. I should say I may need to scrape the bowl down a little bit to incorporate the flour, but I'm going to keep it on low speed, so I'll tell you when I've finished kneading it how long that actually took on low speed. So that's quite smooth and it's a little bit tacky, so I'm going to take that out. So I'll take this out of the bowl and just form it into a ball if I can. And I kneaded this on speed number 2 of my mixer for 11 minutes. And the reason for doing it on the low speed is that I actually read my user manual, and it said that for these mixers you should only ever use speed 2 for kneading dough, otherwise it will stress the machine. And I usually use a higher speed. I'm just going to pull that up, and I've lightly floured my hands. And I'm going to pull that into a ball and then just drop it into a lightly oiled bowl and turn it over like that. And I'm going to leave that covered with plastic wrap in a warm place for it to prove until it's doubled in size, which should take about an hour in all probability. But when it's doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. So I allowed my dough to rise for just over an hour, and it's more than doubled in size. So this is what it looks like, and I'm actually going to just knock the air out of it like that. And then I'm going to tip it onto a lightly greased surface. And I'm going to flatten it out into a disc, and I'm going to make long rolls rather than round buns. I'm going to make rolls maybe 6 to 7 inches long. So I'm going to divide this roughly into 8 pieces. Like that. And then I'm going to take each piece and I'm going to flatten it out until it's about 6 inches like that, and I'm going to roll it up like that and pinch the seams together, and I'll do the same for the others. And with 8 rolled out like that, I'm going to take each one and put it onto a dry surface, and I'm going to pull it towards me like that. I want to create some tension in the surface of the dough. And then once I have achieved that, I'm going to put it onto a lightly greased baking tray. Now I've actually lightly greased some parchment paper. And with them rolled out like that, I'm going to cover them for 15 minutes so that they can rise. And while they're rising, I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees Celsius, that's 180 Celsius with a fan, 400 Fahrenheit. And I'm going to boil my 1.8 litres of water with the baking soda and the salt, so that we can then drop these in to that water and cook them. So I'll show you that next. So with the water, with the baking soda and the salt boiling, I'm going to take the buns and I'm going to drop them in. I'm going to do it one at a time, and I'm going to cook it for 30 seconds on one side and then turn it over and cook for 30 seconds on the other side, and then I'm going to take it out and put it back onto the greased parchment paper. And as you can see, they become a bit crinkly, but they'll be fine. They will puff up again as they bake. And I think the longer you leave them in the water here, the more brown they will become during the baking. I'm going to try to pick this up without breaking it and drop that back onto the parchment paper. So these are the rolls which I have now boiled in the solution. So I'm going to take a sharp knife or a blade, and I'm going to slash 3 cuts in each one. You can do this however you want, really. You could slash lengthways, just one long cut if you wanted to, just like that. And then I'm going to take some sea salt and sprinkle over the top of each one. Just like that. And I'm going to put those into the oven for between 20 and 24 minutes until they've turned a nice dark brown colour and they're cooked through, and then I take them out, let them cool down, and I'll come back and show you the results. I baked the pretzel rolls for 22 minutes and they turned a nice dark brown. I took them out of the oven and I've allowed them to cool down. So this is what they look like. And I've cut one so you can see inside. So they're nice and soft, and the crust should be chewy. So I'll have a taste of this one. And they are chewy on the outside but soft on the inside. So these are ideal as sandwich rolls, where you just slice them and fill them with whatever you want. So although they're a little bit complicated to make because of the baking soda, water and salt mixture that you have to boil the rolls in before baking, they're well worth the effort, I think. And so that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to this recipe, which I should say is based on one from King Arthur Flour, or King Arthur Baking as it's now known. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future, so until then, happy baking.